Welcome, and thank you for joining in to our third in a series of Homeland webinar sessions. Today's being on the new E844 control board that we have available for you. Hopefully you have all had some time to digest the information in the E145S webinar we did last week, but please feel free to go back to it and put questions on it if you do have any. Each session we split into a main presentation lasting around about 15 minutes and a Q&A session afterwards. We're holding them every Wednesday, with the next one on the 29th of April and being on our E1SL control board. Most people probably might not recognize the name, but it's the control board that exists inside all of our automatic sliding door operators. As I mentioned, there'll be a Q&A session after the main presentation, and we currently have 14 people watching it. We should have time to answer all the questions, but if we don't have enough time, then obviously leave a comment below, and I'll essentially put a response back to it later. As before with all the previous webinars, if you haven't registered for the other ones as well, the webinars are available as a replay, usually within a couple of hours of the broadcast starting. So you can watch it again or ask any further questions. You can log in at any time and ask questions as we're going through. So we'll go straight into it. Let's bring up the presentation back up again. Here we go. So we've got our new E844 three-phase control board. It's obviously a big bit on the bottom, on the side. Essentially, we're going to be looking through the content, so the basic introduction, the general key features. There are some 844R three-phase only key features on there. The direct safety edge terminals, the command override terminals, limit switches, radio receiver, and the key information from the E844 programming that you'll need to know, and obviously questions and answers afterwards. So the new E844 control board is obviously for three-phase operations, three-phase operators. It can be used with three-phase 400 volts or three-phase 230 volts. This new control board replaces our older 844T, which was used on the 844R three-phase previously, and replaces the 884T, which was built into the 884MC three-phase operator. And this is normally for new installations. We have, however, designed the operator, the control board, to be able to fit into the existing installation without any difficulty, but we'll obviously add enhancing functionality onto it. The older 844T and the 884T will remain available for the moment, but obviously this is the aim, as this essentially replaces it entirely. As you can see on the right-hand side picture, the new control board now has an LCD display, and we use a FAAC standard plus, minus, and F control buttons. And obviously we now have multiple inputs on the control board. The general key features that you have just in general on the board, main one is obviously bus to easy connection. The bus to easy obviously allows the connection of any of our bus to easy accessories to be attached to it, be them opening photocells, closing photocells, key switch, keypad, tag readers, and also FAAC's own bus safety edge system. Obviously, the advantage of using a bus over other types of system is no need to wire separately failsafe. The other thing as well is obviously the failsafe is done on individual systems. So you'll do a failsafe on the safety edge, you'll do a failsafe on the opening photocells, you'll do a failsafe check on every single device independently of each other. We obviously have on the new control board a safety edge inputs. These are two separate terminal blocks, obviously one for opening safety, one for closing safety. Each one is obviously directly able to directly connect a resistor safety edge on more than one series. So you don't need to use our CN60 safety edge controller, and or it could be just change into a failsafe input for normally closed. The safe closing input can also be configured just for photocells. We also have two dedicated command override inputs. I'll go over these a little bit more in a second. We have two programmable outputs and a completely separate dedicated test output circuit, which obviously makes your wiring a lot easier and means you still have two outputs left for your convenience. There are some 844R three-phase only key features. Now, most of these will need to, we'll be releasing in the near future, a 844R three-phase with these control board pre-mounted in the top of the header. And obviously this is when that comes out, is when we have be able to take full advantage of the functionality. Essentially what we're doing is we're adding a magnetic encoder to add it to the top of the board. The board already has a facility for it. It's just the actual encoder needs to be added on the motor. What that will give us is a soft start. So you get an acceleration ramp can now be switched on and off. Obviously, that takes place at the beginning of any movement. This helps you out with the start of trying to move a very large, heavy gate. You don't want to get the jolt function on it. The other bit that it also gives is a accurate pre-limit switch deceleration. So essentially, the pre-limit, you can essentially start the gate slowing down at the right place. And it will also provide you a inherent obstacle detection attached to it. Now, the direct safety edge terminals I spoke about earlier. You have the safe CL, which is the closing safety. That can be essentially configured to be a normally closed contact for safety edges. It can be used with a resistive safety edge contact, and it can also be turned into a photocell contact. Now, there's a reason why it's split that way. Essentially, if you're using it as a photocell, then obviously that will tell the gate to reverse all the way back to the fully open position. When you've got it set as a safety edge circuit, you can control where the reversal is all the way back, or it's only partial instead for 3 seconds. The only thing is I'll suggest is if you are using this as a safety edge input, you don't use a hardwired photocell in the same like in series with the output from like a safety edge controller. We will recommend the use of bus photocells instead. Its only reason being is obviously the board won't be able to tell the difference where it's a safety edge or where it's a photocell. So we only want the if it's a photocell broken, because sometimes also people coming through and it triggers and so on. The other bit that we have is the safe OP input. Essentially, this is for a safety edge in the open direction. We can either set it to be a normally closed contact for using like other wireless receivers, etc., and also be used as a resistive direct input. Don't connect any hard wired photocells onto the circuit as well. We recommend the use of the bus ones instead. Obviously, as with all our direct safety edge terminals, each input can only take one set of resistor, can only take one resistor at a time. So again, we've carried out tests, we're able to get accurately working 8 resistive edges wired in series with one end of line 8.2 kilo-ohm resistor. That again potentially gives us 16 hardwired safety edges on your portal, essentially where we expect you to be using them. We have these command override terminals. You heard me speaking about them. They're obviously the bits that are highlighted in blue. You got a CLH and an OPH. What they are is actually quite extremely useful inputs, especially for gates that are part of like a security process, where there must be a way of the gate, irrespective of whatever's happening around them, must be able to close or open. So they are only designed to be used as emergency overrides, and obviously only in an emergency situation. And the other part that you'd expect, like you would do with like a deadman system, the entirety of the gate and its travel must be visible by the user of the override facility. They essentially behave as deadman push buttons. You hold the button down, the gate will open, and it does it irrespective of any safety device fitted to it. And these are separate hardwired commands. So the gate can work in normal operation, like 9 times out of 10, it's just you press the button, the gate opens, and then the gate automatically closes, etc. afterwards. But if, for example, the gate was opening and there's somebody coming towards it that you don't want to go through the gate, you can basically do an emergency close onto it. The other useful feature that we get out of these inputs are for installers during installation. So it allows you to basically check the direction of the motor and the limit switches, make sure they're all wired the right way around. The limit switches, like I said, the control board is obviously designed for the 844R three-phase and also for the 884 MC three-phase motor. The 884 MC three-phase motor gets wired into the CN5 as it's shown on there because it's a hardwired connection. And the A844R, we use the quick connectors just above it. And you got one for the open, one for the close. It just depends on which way around it's going. The other thing that we also get with this control board, you can plug in a radio receiver directly onto the control board, and it's pre-configured to give it an open command. The only thing we would suggest is if you are using that, for example, the one that's shown in the picture with the A844 MC operator, we recommend you use an external antenna as well with it. If I remember correctly, the part is 412006. Essentially, the A844 has a big metal box that goes cabinet that goes over the top of everything, and just the little area that comes with receiver, you're not going to be able to go past that really that well. But yeah, on here we have basically the key parameters that you get on the board. Obviously, you'll be familiar with a lot of these already, because essentially they are the same as we have on all of our control boards. We still use the same plus, minus, and F. The only thing we have is that we have a all the parameters are all on one level. We're starting from the left, going to the right. The first two, obviously, we have a type of gear motor, like we have again with a lot of our control boards. We have a default setting. You have the logic, which is obviously much easier to control now. Going to the middle, we have obviously the first one is a failsafe. We can obviously have just failsafe enabled on the opening, on the closing, and also enabled on both at the same time. Bit to remember is failsafe is automatic on bus systems anyway. And the bottom three you see on there, the EC, the SS, and the RP, those are specific, like it says, for the A844R three-phase onto it. Again, you can control the sensitivity of the encoders, the soft start, the prelimit switch. And then on the far right-hand side, we obviously have the where we can adjust the what the safe opening input does and what the safe closing input does. And we have that point where we can do the IP, which is the what it does in terms of a safety edge. Whether it's a yes, so it's only a partial reverse, that's when you want the edge to basically be stop, reverse, stop. Or you can have total reverse, so basically gate stop, reverse, and goes all the way back open again. The bus, we configure in exactly the same way we do with all of our other control boards, be it the E124 or the E145S or the B680s, or every other control board we do that does bus. We then have pre-flashing, you can just turn on and off. And lastly, we also have a time learning, where obviously the board can know exactly how long it's supposed to run for. So that brings us to any questions. So we'll see if anyone's posted anything on here below. So let's have a peek. Nothing is yet. Obviously, if you have any questions, just put them on there and we can see if I can run through them for you. So we'll wait a little while, see if anyone comes up with anything. Allow a bit of time for people to type if people want to. Obviously, the next webinar, next Wednesday, that is going to be on the E1SL control board. This is the control board that goes inside all of our sliding door operators. It's one board that essentially goes on all the motors all the sliding doors that we do. So we're just going to be doing a special webinar on it, just showing obviously people how to configure it up properly and how to obviously wire in the safety devices onto the system as well. The other thing as well that we're going to be doing with that one is obviously there'll be a quick guide that's going to be released as well, just to help out, because obviously the manual that comes with it is quite long, it's quite complex. So we're obviously going to be doing that at the same time. We can see. No worries. Thank you very much, Anthony. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Okay, if obviously anyone doesn't have any more questions, in which case what we'll do is, if you think of anything in the meantime, any question at all, you can just log back in afterwards and you can just put it down in the open questions, and essentially that will allow us to yes, if you want to request a webinar on a product that you want information on, please do so. Obviously these home learn sessions obviously for your installed benefit. So if you have a particular products that that you'd like these kind of like short webinar sessions where you just want to look at something in focus, then please put it on there. We'll obviously be happy to create something for you if it will assist you. Obviously, since no one is, I'd just like to thank you for your time. Thank you for having a look, and I look forward to seeing you guys on the next one. And also, don't forget, all the other ones are still available on the system, so you can just go back in and have a look at your convenience. So take care, and everybody keep safe.